over Abreu. I think it was Bobby Abreu.
Yeah,
it went over his head.
Close.
It was kind of close, but you know what? That
I
happens
watched the
all the
replay.
time. He didn't even hit him. There was. I missed the game, obviously, but there was
Yeah.
something that had happened before that. So I guess for that reason, because it was the start of a bench clearing brawl or whatever,
Yeah.
they've suspended him. He's appealing. He immediately appealed.
Well, yeah, I just don't think it's kind of like I'm trying to think of the right analogy to put it, but he didn't actually do anything technically. He tried.
But how do you? But here's the
thing: if you try to steal something, it's a slap on the wrist, right? But it's a bigger penalty if you actually did steal it.
And here's the funny thing is, and of course he would never admit it, but he even said, I mean, being realistic, if he was trying to do it, he would never admit it. He was like, that ball could have gone anywhere. My control was bad that night. He said, I can't believe I'm being suspended, and that's kind of how he said it.
I think I read a quote somewhere from him that the whole what happened or something like that was that he was trying to stop, but he didn't want to stop suddenly and hurt himself and injure himself. That could just be a BS excuse, but I mean, there's some credence to that though. I mean, if you're getting ready to throw a ball that's like 90 miles an hour, you suddenly stop, you're probably gonna hurt yourself. So, but it just kills me. If he had hit him. Even if you do hit somebody, it's like eject you from the game. That's your penalty. You're done.
And he wasn't even ejected.
Yeah, he wasn't even ejected. So it's kind of, I don't know. I hate when I see penalties that are knee-jerk penalties after the fact that don't do anything. And it's kind of also in terms of him learning his lesson. If you even want to go that so far to say that, he won't do it again now. Yeah, he will, because he thinks he's in the right here. You've almost validated him because he knows that you penalized him for basically nothing, and he just feels attacked and all that. He won't learn anything if that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I
no deterrent whatsoever.
I do not think he should have been suspended at all. And I usually agree with what baseball does, but I don't agree with that.
I hardly ever agree with baseball.
One other thing I wanted to say. Oh, the Indians.
What's their record? I have not kept up on.
If I said 8-0, would you believe me?
No, I know better than that.
I
told you last week I have a fantasy team with Cliff Lee on it. I know they're not doing great.
The Indians are 1-7.
Yeah, but it's there. You can bounce back from that.
Yeah, it's a lot.
How many games are they out of the division lead right now?
Who knows? Like 6, probably.
I was being facetious.
Oh, they are just not.
I'm gonna look it up now.
They're 1-7.
Which are they in?
Right there.
American
They're
League?
in last.
Central. But how many games out?
4 back.
4 back. See, you can make that up. You can make that up by the end of the season.
Oh yeah, did you see who's leading that division?
That's right, Kansas City Royals. Buzzworthy, right there. And they're on a 3-game winning streak too. The Mariners are on a 5-game winning streak. That is awesome. I want to give a shout out to the Mariners right now. Good for them.
And the best team in baseball is the Florida Marlins.
Technically, yeah. If the playoffs started right now.
Oh, let's not. We will not do that.
The Marlins, the Cubs. See, the Cubs are doing well. I told somebody the other day the Cubs are doing well. They're like, no, they're not. Yes, they are. They're 5-2.
Yeah, the Cubs have actually played very solid baseball. I've actually seen every Cubs game this year.
I actually watched one the other day that they came back, and I watched the last 3 innings
Against Milwaukee.
I think so. Yeah, was it Soriano that had the home run that it was?
That was Soriano. Yeah,
it was like a three-run home run that gave them the lead, and they ended up winning. That
was a 2-run home run.
Was it
close?
2-run?
Yeah.
Okay, I couldn't remember. I just remember I was sitting reading a book while I was watching it, so I wasn't really watching it. But yeah, that's cool too. Oh, and speaking of Chicago sports news, one of the coolest things I've ever seen happen or I've heard about happen was Jermaine Dye and Paul Konerko of the Chicago White Sox hit back-to-back 300th career home runs.
I didn't hear about that. When was that?
It was a few days ago. I'll have to look it up real quick. But yeah, they had Konerko and Dye hit back-to-back home runs, and
it was both their 300th.
Yep, that's basically all there is to it. I mean, that's the whole thing. But that's pretty cool, isn't it?
That is really, really cool. It's just something that you wouldn't expect to happen very often.
No,
it doesn't happen very often.
Yeah. See, Dye Konerko reached 300 homers, and White Sox win.
That's a lot of home runs.
It is. That's 600 between them. But I mean, well, I don't know how long they've been playing, but yeah, it is. But that's that's a milestone. This reached 300 career homers with consecutive drives in the second inning and the Chicago White Sox beat the Detroit Tigers 10-6.
Oh yes, yes, I remember that game. I guess I didn't hear that, but I think it's interesting. The baseball season has been it's been minus the Indians. It's been a pretty good start so far. I'm excited.
This is the part of every season that I enjoy, which is where you're starting to figure out how it's going to be. All of the preseason, jibber jabber, all that's done with, all the predictions are done with. Now it's just solid results.
Yeah, and I think it's still even too early to see how it's going to roll because a lot of teams that lead after the first week end up falling completely on their faces.
The thing. We're only 1 weekend. It doesn't mean this really doesn't mean anything now, which is why I'm saying I know that the Indians are only 1-7, but it's more than they're more than able to turn around.
And they're a good team. They are
as long as they have the talent on the roster. I'm sure they can turn it around. They just have to get in gear and do it.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
So when do the NBA playoffs begin?
Saturday.
Saturday.
Today is actually the last day of the regular season.
All right, we're gonna pull up some standings. Take a look at that now, since we just looked at baseball standings.
Wow, we're using your computer a lot this week.
I wish we use it more.
Oh, really?
To be honest with you, because we're thinking off the top of our heads way too much.
Oh, perfect. Right on the right is the seeds.
Excellent. So the top 8 are clinched in the Eastern Conference.
Cleveland,
Boston, Orlando.
It's actually clinched. All 16 are clinched. It's just the seeding.
Right now, Chicago Bulls are looking like a 6th seed.
Yeah, they have to win tonight to clinch
they have to do.
The 6th seed.
But technically, if Philadelphia and Detroit lose as well, then they have the 6th seed.
Well, if they win, they do everything else, or they take care of everything.
So we've got Cleveland, Boston, Orlando, the Atlanta Hawks, Miami Heat, Chicago Bulls, Philadelphia 76ers, and Detroit Pistons in the Eastern Conference. Lakers, Denver, Houston, Portland, San Antonio, New Orleans, Dallas, and Utah in the Western Conference. I don't know if there's really any really good first-round matchups in this, though. Personally.
Well, let's see. It's going to be preliminarily, if that's even a word.
Preliminary matchups, as we see
is Cleveland and Detroit, and I think
2 years ago that was a hot matchup.
Not
this
anymore.
Year, no.
I think maybe 5 games, probably a sweep.
Boston, Philadelphia, that ought to be.
Boston, I don't know. Boston's
the enigma, though. They're the ones that either are really good or really bad.
Well,
right?
last year they took every series to Game 7 and ended up winning the championship. But I think Boston ultimately wins that series in 5 or 6.
Yeah, Boston's got to win. Orlando and Chicago. If
that
ends up happening, Orlando rolls.
Yeah, I don't know. I was just going to say the opposite. I think that could go 6.
Chicago, I don't think wins anything in the playoffs, and it's a travesty they're even in the playoffs. Argument for another day, but I hate the NBA playoff system.
Yeah, and then the 4 and 5 seed is always a good.
Yeah, well, it's close. That's the one that can go really anyway. It's Atlanta and Miami, but hasn't Atlanta been really good this year?
And they've been okay. It's the Eastern Conference, so we'll say that for another day. But I do think that could be a good matchup. The hot thing going on as we move down to the West, the hot thing is seriously the battle for 8th, because literally they're calling it the battle for the team that doesn't want to play the Lakers in the first round.
As in, because Dallas doesn't want to play,
or Utah doesn't want to play Dallas, or doesn't want to play the Lakers. Dallas doesn't.
A couple people throw Utah out there as a potential team to knock off Los Angeles. If there's going to be somebody like an 8 over a 1, it's going to be Utah over LA.
It's not going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen.
Yes, but I agree. So right now,
if it was like a 1 and a 4, I could see a 4 up and a 1, but not an 8.
Yeah, right now it's
LA and Utah, depending.
Yeah, and then
Utah's
Denver
2 games back, so I don't think Utah's getting up any higher.
No, so I think
and then LA and Utah.
Then Denver's clinched the 2 because they own the tiebreaker. So Denver has clinched the 2, which is very impressive. They set a franchise record for wins this year.
Denver, I didn't even know that Denver. See, how does a team like Denver that I wasn't even aware was even in the league ends up getting
second seed
in the playoffs, and they're playing Dallas. Dallas seems like a team that can come out of nowhere.
Dallas, I think, will turn it on. They're dangerous. I could definitely see Dallas beating Denver.
And here's this next one's probably the one that I'm interested in: Houston and New Orleans, because I hear New Orleans could really do some damage. They're one of those teams that had a poor enough regular season, but it's all because of injuries and fluky things that they can turn around and really do well in the playoffs.
Well, and you got to remember in the Western Conference, all of these teams are 15 games over 500. They're all 47 and 32 and stuff like that. They're all really decent teams, all 8 of them.
Right.
So, I mean, look real quick since you're on the page. What record does Utah have? They're the 8th seed.
48 and 34.
See, that's pretty good for an 8th seed, don't you think?
Yeah.
Now look
compared to Detroit and the Eastern Conference, which is 39 and 42.
Which we'll save that for another day.
Which again, that kind of comes back to what I